When I was at Amherst, I got so intrigued by the four equations of James Clerk Maxwell. In four equations, he laid out the equations to really understand electromagnetism throughout the universe. Four equations. There's a T-shirt that lays these out and said, "And God said," and there was light. You know, and so the same thing happened. These are incredibly elegant equations, but unless you've really had a lot of training, you won't understand them. So I asked one professor at Amherst, would you spend 14 weeks with me? I want to understand those equations, and I want to understand the beauty of them, because everybody's saying they're incredibly beautiful. I want to understand the aesthetics of these equations by James Clerk Maxwell so that I get it. And 14 weeks later, I did. Now, I'm not even remotely a great mathematician. I just put in the hard work. But the point, this is all something of a tangent, but an interesting one, I think. And that is, if Nick, for example, were doing some cutting-edge research and made some great breakthrough, some nut that nobody had been able to crack for the last 300 years. And, you know, he's one of those incredible savants, and he breaks through. We hear from his room, "Eureka!" You know? And he runs in, and you're another mathematician. And he said, "Zaya, look, I've solved it. I've discovered. Here's the solution." And you're also of his caliber. You can say, that's a big claim. That's a big claim, Nick. I have to be very skeptical, but I will look at your equations. I'll follow your whole reasoning. And then 2 hours later, "Eureka!" We hear it from your room. That Nick, you nailed it. Incredible. And then imagine, hypothetically, I'm through, "Allan, I've just checked this out. Check it out for yourself. I think he's done impeccable work. He's made a great breakthrough here." And I read it, and 2 hours later, "Man, Zaya, fantastic. We have to nominate him for the Field Medal." You know? Well, the point here is that this is all subjective. When Nick made his breakthrough in Eureka, he's the only one. It's like having breakthrough to realizing the Godhead. I mean, it's not the same, of course, but you know it, and there's no way you can simply tell somebody and they will get it by telling them. They have to do the hard work. So if you were simply maybe very fond of him or trusted him a lot, and he said, "Zaya, believe me, I've nailed it," well, you could say, "Well, you probably have. I know you're a very honest person," but you wouldn't get it. It's just faith, it's belief, confidence, trust, which are all very good qualities. But if you'd had the training and you follow it line by line by line, and then whoosh, that cut through, that breakthrough at the end, gosh, he did it. He did it. But this is how mathematics has been working for centuries. It's entirely subjective. And you'll never understand mathematics by studying the brain correlates of mathematicians, ever. In fact, it's a silly idea. The notion that we'll understand meditation by studying the brain correlates or behavior of meditators, it's cute. It's quaint, and you'll learn some superficial froth. But will you get it? No more than there's a shortcut to, having 15 years of training in mathematics. You have to do the work yourself. But the point I'm getting at here is this is common knowledge. I'm not making any kind of wild conjecture here. Mathematics is rock solid, but it's not objective. You can't simply write an equation on the board and prove anything to anybody. A parrot or a robot could be programmed to write something on the board. It doesn't prove anything at all. Computers don't prove anything. Robots don't prove anything. That's because they don't understand anything, right? But people with consciousness do, right? And so as we have intersubjective validation among highly trained mathematicians, and they know who to nominate and eventually whom to award the Fields Medal, which is kind of the Nobel Prize for mathematics. And yet outsiders will say, "What did he prove?" And the mathematician probably have to say, "I don't think I can even talk about it to you." Unless you know mathematics, you won't even know what we're talking about, let alone the fact that we've actually discovered something. And so years ago I was with a team, it was 1992, with a team of crackerjack neuroscientists, really good, world class. And we went up to the mountains above Dharamsala. And we wanted to study attention, we wanted to study compassion, and the neuroscientists had brought state-of-the-art portable equipment with them. We hiked an hour and a half up in the mountains above Dharamsala, India. And I had lived up there as a monk. I knew some of the yogis up there, but I'd also had the scientific training, and I was the interpreter. So I was a linguistic and cultural liaison between these scientists and these yogis. And and with the blessing and the authorization of the Dalai Lama, then we brought our backpacks full of equipment up there, EEG and computers and monitors and so forth and so on. And we spoke with a number of yogis, and some agreed to collaborate, some did not. All with very good reason. But one of them I remember in particular. He'd been up there for maybe 10, 15 years in solitary retreat, just devoting himself to meditation, probing the depths of the mind. And the scientist, with his permission, there was nothing improper at all, the scientist came to him, and I was interpreting for them, and they said, you know, Yogi, we'd really like to understand the cultivation of attention. We're also very interested in compassion. Would you allow us to monitor your brain, to monitor your behavior, give you a questionnaire and so forth, because we'd really like to understand meditation? And the yogi gave an incredibly benevolent smile, you know, almost like a mother towards her child. If you had a 5-year-old child and you said, Mom, I'd really like to study quantum cosmology. Could you teach me? Or could I go to MIT now? Because I've heard it's really cool. And the child's 5 years old. You would give that smile. It's not sarcastic, it's not condescending, but it's not a realistic idea for a 5-year-old to study quantum cosmology at MIT. And so that was the smile. And he said, well, I'd be glad to help you understand meditation. Come and meditate. And then you'll understand meditation. But there's no hope they'll understand meditation by studying my brain or anybody else's brain. There's no hope.